Arthur lived in a world of if-onlys. If only I had more energy. If only I had more time. If only I was more disciplined. He was 35 years old, and his life felt like a paused movie. The screen, a cluttered apartment, a flickering television, and the weight of dreams that never left the ground. Arthur worked as a data analyst. A decent job, yes, but one that drained his soul day after day, spreadsheet after spreadsheet. At night, he would whisper to himself, "Tomorrow will be different." Tomorrow, he'd write the novel he always thought about. Tomorrow, he'd start exercising. Tomorrow, he'd clean his life. But tomorrow came, and nothing changed. Because to Arthur, changing his life felt like trying to lift a mountain with a single hand. One Saturday morning, as sunlight crept through dusty windows, Arthur looked in the mirror. The face staring back wasn't of ambition or fire. It was a man perpetually tired, hollow-eyed, and lost. On the mantel sat an old photograph of him at 20, eyes full of dreams, a wide, confident smile. He missed that man. He missed that potential. Just then, a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Gable, his elderly neighbor. Gentle, kind, she held out a small potted sapling. "Arthur, dear," she said softly, "this little oak needs a home with some light." Arthur smiled faintly. "Thank you, it's beautiful." Mrs. Gable's eyes glimmered with wisdom. "You know, the mightiest oak in the forest was once just a tiny acorn. It didn't grow 100 feet overnight. It grew little by little, just 1% every day." 1%. That phrase echoed in Arthur's mind. It wasn't some overwhelming motivational speech. It was simple. It was manageable. The next morning, Arthur tried something different. He didn't attempt to change his life overnight. Instead, he read one page of a book, and then he did one push-up, just one. It was laughable, almost pathetic. His arms trembling, face turning red, but he had moved one grain of sand. The following day, he read 2 pages, did 2 push-ups. By the end of the week, 7 pages, 7 push-ups. Still no visible change, still no breakthrough. But for the first time in years, Arthur felt something small, yet powerful, momentum. He added another habit, just one. Each day, he put away one item from his messy apartment. A mug, a shirt, a paper on the floor. Weeks passed. Arthur was no longer doing just one push-up. He was doing 20. He was jogging around the block, and each day the block got longer. He was reading full chapters at night, his mind alive with new ideas and clarity. Even at work, his focus sharpened. He wasn't just staring at numbers anymore. He was seeing patterns. He was contributing ideas. His apartment, once a cage, began to feel like a sanctuary. And all of this started with 1 page, 1 push-up, 1 coffee mug. But life is never a straight climb. One day, months into his progress, Arthur's biggest project at work was suddenly scrapped. Months of effort, gone. The old Arthur would have given up. And for 2 days he almost did. He slumped on his couch, drowning in hopelessness, skipping all his new habits. But on the 3rd day, he remembered Mrs. Gable's words. 1%, my dear, that's all it takes. Arthur realized consistency isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. So he laced his shoes, ran 1 block. That night he read 1 page, just 1. And with that, he was back on track. Months later, Arthur's life was unrecognizable. He wasn't just a data analyst anymore. He had been promoted to project manager. He had finished the first draft of his novel. He had joined a running club and even completed a half marathon. One evening he sat on his porch, a glass of water in hand, watching the sun set. Beside him stood the oak sapling Mrs. Gable had given him, now stronger, taller, greener. And Arthur smiled, because he finally understood. His transformation didn't come from some dramatic lightning strike. It came from millions of tiny, almost invisible choices. One page, one push-up, one coffee mug. Here's the truth Arthur discovered, the truth we often forget. If you improve by just 1% every single day for a year, you don't end up 365% better, you end up 37 times better. That's the power of compounding. Tiny, consistent gains create massive, life-changing results. But the opposite is also true. 1% worse every day, and you don't just stay the same. You shrink. You fade. You become a fraction of who you were meant to be. So the choice is always there, growth or decay. And it's not decided by the big moments. It's decided in the smallest ones. You don't need to lift the mountain. Just move one grain of sand today. Because one day when you look back, you'll realize those grains built a monument. A monument called your best life.